For this video, we'll just go mission by mission and rant about the game that way. This is Dingus's first time playing through Halo 4 fully in years, so his reactions after each event are raw. And finally, I want to address this weird trend in the Halo community to try and come to the defense of Halo 4. No, this game is fucking terrible. If you think anything else, you really need to reconsider your form of taste. This game has bad writing, bad visuals, bad gameplay. This game has very few good parts. They are so horribly outperformed by earlier games that it's not even a competition. Any day of the week, I would rather pick up one of the Bungie era games than ever play this dog shit pile game ever again. Alright, so first we start off the game, and already we can see things are different. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong about 343 wanting to change the art style. They are the inheritors of Halo, right? And I think it's totally fair if after inheriting an IP, you meld the art design a little bit, you know? It's perfectly normal for you to want to change that. The problem is that they changed the core designs of the characters in the game that we're all used to, and it makes issues. They provide no explanation for these changing species, and on top of that, almost every new design is fucking ugly. The Forward Unto Dawn is generic looking. The Elite, a graceful and lovely species with senses of honors, warriors who are beautiful in their resolve, but respectful in their slaying. Yeah, Dingus got them confused with brutes because of how thuggish and ugly they look. They're big, bulky, and brutish, right? And on top of that, their design is stupid. Their teeth would poke their eye out in real life. Look at this. The tooth would go into the eye if they were to close their jaw. What? And the grunts are ugly. Before they were these cute little like crab baby things with this weird looking mouth pacifier, now they look like ugly dinosaurs and they no longer have their pacifier. They have this freaking tube in their nose. One tube in their nostril to breathe. What? And the jackals? They didn't change all that much? No. Now they went from birds to crocodiles. They used to have this like weird like bird pirate gangster look. No, now they just look like dickish crocodiles who are hunting you down. Like they lost almost all character. Alright, but I have to stop. If I had the chance, this entire video would just be me shit talking the new designs for enemies. We have one more important one to cover, and it's not Master Chief's armor. It's the Marines. What in the actual hell is this design? They look like Nerf soldiers. The original design for them was based on movies like Aliens with their thick metal armor, a tactical readout in their eye, and a badass attitude. The new Marines? They look stupid. I mean, these are like airsofters trying to look cool on the field. They look so ugly. And you could try and paint this from a realism, because I guess I could see how they're realistic, but that's not cool. Rule of cool. They literally could have just used Halo 3 designs. I think the one with the dark green and the mask looks a lot better than these guys with like the open guard helmet. But then again, I'm not the genius who designed them, so what the fuck do I know? Most of the vehicles and guns look fine. The battle rifle is a little too blocky for my taste. And I will say though, the beam rifle is really cool looking in my opinion. It kind of looks like this like dolphin, and I think that's a really neat design, and it's much better than this weird V. I mean, I like the V because it looks more alien, but I like this one because it looks like a dolphin, so, you know, potato. But the Lich is kind of ugly, you know. The struggle with this one is it does look Covenant, so I'll give it a pass. And the Mammoth, yeah, it's just a knockoff of the Elephant, but again, it looks Halo, I'll give it a pass. And honestly, most old heads like me rag on like the Spartan look. I think they look fine-ish. This is before Halo 5, so they're not as Power Rangery, but it does feel like 343 was trying a little too hard with these guys. It's not offensive though. They just kind of look too futuristic, if that makes sense. They don't look rugged and worn down. They look pristine and superhero-y. The worst designed vehicle by far is the Pelican. So for some reason they decided to give the Pelican this like weird hump incline on the back of it. It doesn't make it aerodynamic. The old Pelican used to be aerodynamic. This one isn't, which makes no sense, right? If you have a dropship, you want it to be aerodynamic once it enters atmosphere. What the fuck do I know, apparently, though? I'm just the end consumer. I know nothing. Also, the OG design was iconic. And they changed very few other designs besides this. I can't even really think of a ship they changed as much as this besides the Forward Unto Dawn. There's not really anything they changed from us to the Pelican. And they did it just so stupidly. The absolute worst offender of this art style, without a shadow of doubt, is the Forerunners. Look, 343 has this stupid fucking obsession with making the Forerunners this cool faction. Look how cool! Guys, look how cool they are! Look, they have floating buildings and glowy lights and their guns for a lightning. Look how cool it is! Look, they have force powers and the library can give Master Chief superpowers so fight the superpower gun. God, this game feels like 8-year-old me got a hold of the franchise. The Forerunner structures in Bungie games used to be these haunting, long, droning hallways with thick earth and metals, few lights, and the feeling as though you were walking through a time capsule or a temple. Now we get this glowy generic floating shit and are forced to deal with it. It's visual just puke. It's thick metal. It's the same silver and the same glowy blue or glowy orange or glowy red, and there's no color, there's no texture, right? And it just keeps going. And it's a huge issue as the game progresses because there's many missions where I just, felt like I was in the same mission. It doesn't feel any different. There's no unique structures. Everything feels the same, right? And as this game progresses, you're going to realize this feels like fan fiction from a super young fan who barely understood the story. Oh, wait. Yeah, so the studio head who was behind this game, he's gone now, but he's a fucking cuck. He was barely involved in the OG games, and he essentially uses us as his own little writing playground. And if anything should tell you about this guy, right? When asked about Cortana, he said, she's just doing something that we don't like Russia. Brother, what fucking stupid. So, part of the original appeal of Bungie's lore was this grand tragedy, right? The Forerunners were human, so the Covenant was killing the people they worshipped, and the point of humanity being reclaimers makes no sense now. In New lore, the Forerunners killed humanity after humanity started attacking them, right? Yeah, so instead of telling the Forerunners what was happening, ancient humanity went to war with the Forerunners to run from the Flood. This is extremely fucking stupid, because a big part of OG Halo was that they always maintained the atmosphere of military realism, right? Yeah, of course this game is nuts, but they always feel grounded. You don't feel like you're magic. Master Chief's just extremely fucking lucky and is also a super soldier. That's why he knew stuff like jump out of ship and blow up another one, right? Now they just throw that all away. And they had actual like, Marines would act like actual soldiers. They would push up, they would give each other covering fire, right? So tell me why in the hell this is thrown away? No intergalactic army would put themselves in this situation. They acted so stupidly. There's no so an intergalactic army that the Forerunners struggle years against just won't communicate with their neighbor and be like, hey, we got an existential threat. We need help, guys. One that would destroy the entire galaxy. No, instead let's fight a two-front war against them. Because there is no other point in history where we have ever learned that a two-front war doesn't work out. What? Who wrote this? Do you have any idea how, if you write any book that has anything to do with military, you need to have some basic understanding of the part you're writing about, right? This is Tactics 101. Whatever. So humanity act really stupid, now they're annihilated. As punishment, and God, I can't believe I'm saying this, humanity is devolved and sent back to the Stone Age for some reason, because that's what you do when you defeat your enemy. And the Forerunners are overrun by the Flood, and they use the Halo Marines as a last resort, but give humanity the ability to access their tech. Why? This is super stupid. So a big reason why Bungie lore worked was how poetic it was, right? In Bungie lore, humanity was almost annihilated by the Flood. In a last-ditch attempt to recover the situation, they built the Halo Ring to wipe out the galaxy and start fresh so that they could hopefully just, reset the universe, right? They would give their last few lives instead of running from the Flood. They would give their last few lives into defending the Halo Rings and making sure that where there's death, new life can sprout. This is a beautiful telling of the story. It's poetic, it has biblical undertones, right? It's just a very beautiful story. Where there's death, may come life in its future. This is just completely ruined by modern lore. The Forerunners are jealous assholes who killed their creators because humanity was given the mantle of responsibility, and they committed horrible crimes against their enemy, and then killed everything in the universe when they fucked up enough. So they have no nobility about them. They have no ancient mysticism. And by the way, why is the race called the Forerunners? They were called the Forerunners because they were the Forerunners. That's not a species name, right? That's what they were in relation to the current day. They were the people before us. Why are we calling a species Forerunners? Who are they forerunning? That makes no freaking sense. And by the way, in the lore, they have to contrive a reason for this to exist. So they knew this was an issue, and yet they went through with it. And if that doesn't tell you everything about the writing staff, then I don't know what is. And I don't want this to get misconstrued as me hating the book authors, because the book authors have no official control over the story. They're just doing what they do. I'm not going to blame them. This is the fault of the person in charge of leading the story, and no one but his. Alright. Last but not least, before we start with the missions, I have to touch on the music. The OST for this game is very shaky, unfortunately. Half of it is good, and the other half is bad. And the bad stuff isn't bad. It just doesn't fit. And also usually is mostly unhearable in combat, right? In OG Halo, you have these deep, thundering war drums, ringing trumpets, and crying strings. When the artists go back to these principles, their music really shines through. And I think the main problem is Neil Davidge's pieces. He just doesn't hit right when his music plays in a lot of scenarios, and this isn't his fault at all. This is the fault of the people who, probably I would say the game director, because the game director has final say on everything, but they should have looked at the music, said, we need to either turn this up, you need to go back and re-record this. They could have done so much stuff. I forgot the other guy's name. I'm pretty sure he's some Japanese dude, but he has some really bomb pieces. There's plenty of great pieces in this game. The problem is that you just either never hear it, or it's such a letdown at the part it plays. And also, they'll just use the same track and have it play for like an entire mission, which can get really annoying after a while. This leads to plenty of times where the main difficulty is scavenging ammo, and with how the Promethean weapons are designed, some enemies feel invincible because of this, because most of the Promethean weapons are bad. The most common ones, I should say, they're just bad. And then the good ones have almost no ammo. And then they're hard to find. And then you're stuck using pretty much the light rifle and the bolt shot the entire game, because nothing else is good, nothing else has ammo. You sacrifice for a power weapon, and you're shit out of luck for the rest of the match. But all in all, again, it's a good intro. Plenty of ammo everywhere, good Covenant encounters, a nice little part of the mission where we have to run through the ship as it falls apart, which is really fun. The second mission features us falling, and this starting area is really neat. I like how we climb through the wreckage and get to like this cave, and on the other side we see a light, and then as the light fades away and we step out into the daylight, we see giant, ugly, floating Forerunner towers. Fuck. See, my problem here is that they could put like a massive pyramid or something here, and it will fit way better than what they're getting at. But instead they just threw these generic floaty structures and bleh. After that, we take this really boring drive through a tunnel, the more ugly wreckage and coloring. Cortana doesn't completely understand what Rampancy is supposed to be. Instead of a process of self-actualization for AIs like in Bungie's Halo, now they go crazy. This has no effect on the story other than this forced drama of her going crazy for the sake of melodrama. Cortana used to be a badass who was willing to sacrifice herself just in case the Flood escaped High Charity. Now she's throwing a fit and yelling at her superior officer out of nowhere, making a really awkward scene. I digress back to the mission at hand, and look! We get to go into another ugly floating Forerunner structure! The arenas in this game are unbearable. The only fun ones are against Covenant, and on top of that, it feels like they just learned nothing from past Halos about difficulty. Jackal snipers are here, and they rarely ever miss. Elites have, half-second melee animations that aren't telegraphed. There's just spam everywhere. The grunts don't act dynamically. They act very robotic. The jackals are very lackadaisical. Oh, and this mission goes nowhere. This mission is filler. And by the way, this campaign is only 8 missions. This is shorter than Halo CE and just on par with ODST, which for all sakes, ODST is an expansion of Halo 3. It's not a standalone game. Now, they sold it as a standalone, blah, 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 shut up. Right? It's 8 missions. Why this game is shorter than Halo CE? This game is as long as an expansion pack. What the fuck? Like, what? That's crazy. I can't believe I paid $60 for this back in the day. This is a complete and total fucking ripoff. For me, the Prometheans. This part of the story only really has us meet the big baddie, so for most of the section, it's a rant about the Prometheans. They are boring gameplay-wise. All of them suffer this really annoying problem where you can't tell what weapon they have. Their design is ugly. These floaty bits with glowy lights, it makes it super hard to see their guns because guess what? The guns are the same color as them with the floaty bits and the same glowy fucking lights. And they don't even, okay, and by the way, they don't even have like different colors or anything, right? So what Bungie used to do is they would give them unique silhouettes and unique colors. 2 things, right? The Prometheans have this with the silhouettes, but the differences are so subtle, it's almost impossible in the heat of battle to identify which is which. This leads you to situations where you think you can rush down a knight, only for him to one-shot you with a shotgun because you thought he had a light rifle. Right, in comparison, in the Bungie's days, whenever an enemy would have a close range, one-shot like this, guess what they had? A giant fucking hammer or a glowing light sword that they purposely held away from their body, which was very easy to see. The Prometheans are just poorly designed. You can't even tell what weapon they have. You can barely tell what class they are, because the only differences are these little spikes and stuff that you can barely see in the heat of battle. So there's 3 types of Prometheans, excluding the turret. The first is the crawlers, and honestly, they're fun. I like the way they climb and jump to flank you, but a headshot will put them down easily. So you have this really nice gameplay where you can get swarmed, but with careful aim, you just dunk, 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 and it's really satisfying. However, the Promethean Knights are just horrifically designed. This is, if you're trying to make your own game, listen up. This is exactly not how to make an enemy. So, for one, their shields don't telegraph how far they are to be broken as easily. So, elites, their shields get continually brighter and brighter until they're finally shattered. Knights just have this weird shimmer, and eventually that shimmer explodes and stuns them. You can barely tell from the shimmer. All you can tell is that you're doing damage and if they're broken. You can't tell how much you're doing. You don't have a telegraphed way to tell that. So, alright, that's one thing, right? But they can also teleport instantly, without warning. This means that after emptying multiple guns into them, if you haven't broken their shields or just broke them, they can just teleport away and instantly regen, making all your efforts worthless. In Bungie games, enemies with recharging health/shields had to, number 1, run to cover, being vulnerable while doing so, 2, have a slow recharge time that lets you reposition, or if you're confident enough to rush them down. Not with Knights though. With the Knights, if you try and rush them down, they'll most likely have shields back, or a Watcher shielding them. Or, even worse, they'll do an almost instant melee attack, sending you to the last checkpoint. Watchers are the biggest annoyance to fight. So, for one, they are tanky, small, fast, and can fly. This makes hitting them in general hard. And then, on top of that, they can revive knights in less than 5 seconds without warning, throw grenades back at you, and provide shielding for nearby Prometheans. So, you're forced to target them down, but then you're vulnerable to knights and crawlers pinging you from afar. Oh, and they have regenerating health. Oh, and if you kill any knights, lose sight of the Watcher, it can just revive them. And now you have to deal with the knight all over again that you spend most of your ammo dealing with. This mission finishes off with us meeting the main antagonist of Halo 4, the Didact, and holy shit, this guy stinks! So, remember what I said about this game being fan fiction? Yeah, this guy is a perfect example. He wears floaty, glowy Power Ranger armor, has force powers, and his motivations are fucking stupid and unexplained through the game. He also has this dumbass looking ball ship that floats around. Again, I ask, where in the absolute hell did the designers get this idea? It's so goofy and dumb looking. It's ugly. It makes no sense as to why the Didact would use this as his primary ship. Later on, he gets a massive ship that looks like those talking heads from Rick and Morty. He's so goofy and contrived. His whole thing is that he used to hate humanity and still does, question mark? So the first thing this guy does after waking up thousands of years after his friends, family, and culture are destroyed is go, yup, I want to start killing people that I annihilated earlier on in my life. Yeah, okay. And also, how did this guy survive? I understand how he did lore rise, but it ruins the impact of the Halo. If he could survive, why didn't more foreigners? Why did they launch the Halos in the first place? None of this is touched on in-game, and instead expand universe lore. So, we get to beat this mission with a pretty fun ghost run through a falling area, which is pretty cool. Alright, the next mission is definitely one of the best. So, it starts off with this really pretty cutscene of the Chief actually acting like a real soldier. What? The Chief is ducking beneath foliage to avoid. Whoa! The Master Chief? The guy trained at birth to be a fucking soldier? Is acting like a soldier? What? What are you on about? Oh my god. The first part of this mission is okay. The problem is that you're fighting Prometheans, really. And they introduced another armor ability here, the Promethean Vision, and the only reason why I talk about this guy is because it'd be super helpful on other missions, yet I've only seen it here. In fact, it appeared so little in the playthrough, I thought that it was only on this mission because only Dingus found it, and that was like 2 other times, I think. So now we get to this holdout section, and the cutscene following is a cutscene of all time. So one of the coolest things about Chief was that he was the last active Spartan on the front line. It was always implied through the games that there were more Spartans, but we never really encountered them. And I think it's cool that we're able to meet other Spartans and fight alongside them, especially because they're new, so we kind of feel that like age passing us by. But my issue with it is how Palmer and the other ones act. They act nothing like Spartans. So Palmer walks out, she isn't wearing a helmet in the battlefield, which is really stupid because now she doesn't have shields, and she's a professional soldier. So she starts ragging on the Chief despite just meeting them in the middle of a combat situation. And this is just a problem with all the Spartan 4s throughout the game, is that they just act so unprofessionally. There was only one in Spartan Ops who acted vaguely professionally, and they also look way too Power Ranger-y. I want super soldiers, not superheroes. So, after Chief gives a very forced one-liner, we get to go on an on-rail Scorpion section. Perfect classic Halo here. We get to go on a little Scorpion ride, blow some shit up. Hell yeah, this is right on the money. Then we get into the ship, and this part is really cool. We get to go on a Mantis run. This is how you do Halo. You give big battle sets with lots of options. The only thing I wish is that the Mantis had a few extra paths with different enemy sets to add some flavor, but overall the section's pretty fun. And then when we get to the deck of the ship, we look up and see Covenant ships just above the Affinity. And all I have to ask is, why aren't they firing? The Affinity has no defenses here, yet the Covenant just sits there and watches them. It makes no sense. Your enemy is weak, they cannot move, and they cannot effectively fight back. Why are you not just annihilating them now? And they just sit there and do nothing. And then on top of it, we just fire some backgrounds at the giant floaty Didact ball and he goes away, and all the Covenant go away? What? Why don't the Covenant not have shields on their ships either? Like, it feels like they just wanted to write this. I don't even know. It wasn't even writing. They must have been smoking crack instead. After this, we get to have another one of these dumb cutscenes with Del Rio where he's just being a dick, and also melodrama from Cortana. Great, but this game needs more of. Pointless drama. This mission is one of the best and worst. I like the Mammoth sections where it's essentially a mobile base bringing us to new arenas. These encounters are annoying but pretty fun. On a side note, if you didn't think that 343 were lazy, the fact Lassie just walks to the back of the Mammoth and disappears should tell you everything. After this fight, we fight more Prometheans, walk through more of Ugly Forerunner structures, get stopped at dead end and have this floaty ghost bitch explain this lore that makes no sense to us, recounts the old games and completely sucks all pace out of the game. Oh yeah, that's another really annoying thing. We have these tons of stop and start moments that add nothing, like this one, where the librarian essentially mansplains to us a bunch of stuff, and we just have to deal with it in the middle of the game. You know, a 10-minute cutscene. So, long story short, the librarian gave us these superpowers because she actually planned out the Spartan program from the start. To clarify, according to the game, the Foreigners pre-planned Cortana, Master Chief, Mjolnir armor, and the whole Covenant war to kill the Didact. What in the world? This lore is so fucking stupid. The librarian modified their dreams to create all this stuff. What if the Chief was randomly just blown up? What if during the cutscene in Halo 2 he was hit by a passing ship and instantly fucking murked? Nothing we did mattered because the librarian protected it. This is dumb. This is so stupid. You just completely ruined all the past games because random librarian just, is like, we need the Master Chief to survive one day. So, long story short, according to new lore, everything is pre-planned by the librarian and she is pretty much the god of this universe. Alright, whatever. Luckily we finished off with some fan service courtesy of Staff Sergeant Stacker and the Scorpion fight. That goes into another quick time event with the lame ass cutscenes. Fun. The next mission is absolutely, and I wrote one of the worst in the game. I'm gonna say this is probably the worst in the game. So the starting cutscene is full of awkward acting and lots of melodrama. Cortana is yelling and throwing a fit because Del Rio won't let them leave. Del Rio is acting like an unprofessional child. Master Chief and everyone on the bridge just kind of awkwardly stands there. And then we get a cut to Cortana having more melodrama on the deck. Then the only form of good writing walks through the door and tells us he hooked us up with a... drumroll please, a pelican! Yes, that is right. For the first time in any Halo game, except for New Alexandria, don't hate, it is so shit. We get to fly a pelican for the first time, and they fucked it up. So, this section is such a massive letdown. The one really cool moment they could have had in this game, and they absolutely fucking blow it. You take the Pelican, fly these towers, kill some phantoms, rinse and repeat 3 times. That is all you do with the Pelican. There's no cool sections where you fly around helping guys, dogfighting, none of that. Compared to New Alexandria and Halo Reach, where you can explore, get side quests, and fly around a diverse city and get into fights with random enemies, this mission may as well not have a pelican in it. It's so useless and gimmicky. The next mission opens up with us looking at a Halo ring. We never get to go on it, of course, though, because 343 has this weird anti-fetish of going on Halo rings in their games that we had to eventually force them Halo Infinite. But we get on the command deck of the Lich, and Cortana has another dumb melodrama moment where she literally nearly kills the Chief. This writing is so terrible. She keeps having these melodrama moments that interrupt the mission, and instead of having a cohesive story behind them, it's literally just done for the sake of adding drama. This is honestly my favorite mission, though. because we start off just by trying to get the Covenant off the station, and it's pretty fun gameplay. And something you'll notice is that the most fun parts of this game are when you're not fighting Prometheans. So when you're fighting the Covenant, it's almost like 343 can't design a game for fun. But I digress. We see this dude get murked by a jackal, which is a cool little vignette, and then these hittier sections are actually pretty fun. So you're forced to fight through the enemies to hit a quick time event instead of just purely defending, and that's pretty fun. It's a nice little twist up on the gameplay. And I like how if you get the keypad in time, you can like prevent extra waves from dropping off because they get destroyed, which I think is cool. We fight up the decks on the station. I wrote ship, I'm pretty sure it's a space station, and just get some good old killing in on these covey bastards. A really cool but annoying section is the part where you fight the hunters in the lab. Not only did they put these cool little audio logs talking about Forerunner artifacts in the universe, but the hunter fight in the enclosed space is a little neat way of doing a hunter fight. I don't think we've ever gotten this close of a hunter fight in any Halo game. My only issue with it is that the hunter's melee animations are just so jerky and sudden that it doesn't make for fun gameplay. I think the best balance was Halo 3's hunter gameplay, or Halo 2's maybe. Halo 1's is just too dancey for me, but you know. I digress. I'm getting distracted. And then we go to reactivate the anti-air defenses with melodrama that goes nowhere. And then we get back to the lab, and Tilson is trying to get a nuke. The Didact is moving in, more melodrama. So we have to go to this defense section, the Mantis. I like the little Covenant dancing here, by the way. This part is pretty fun if you aren't on Legendary, because on Legendary, the AI has a massive range. Plus, really good accuracy. Plus, there are a lot of them in this wide open space with little cover. So they're able to just shoot you from across the map, and it's hard to shoot them back, and you're just being pressured from all sides. It's annoying, but after that, we get to go to the final cutscene of this mission that has another quick time event of us stopped on this elevator watching the Didact yoink the composer. And honestly, this cutscene is probably the best of the entire series. This one is actually have some good impact and drama, and it's haunting. You get to watch them the people on the station get stripped layer by layer from the composer, and them screaming is so haunting. It's so beautiful. And this is like, the drama from this is actually kind of scary because we don't know what the weapon does yet, and then it does this. Like, it's actually well written. Oh my god. The final mission opens up with the Didact taking his giant head to Earth. We get to do this really lame trench run throughout the structure. I guess, you know, it's cool to do a Halo trench run, but it's, you know, it's Halo 4. I hate it. While talking to Lasky tells us to destroy these power cores with these giant cannons so the Infinity can come in and blast a hole in the ship. Alright, pretty standard Halo stuff. So once a hole is created, we fly through and crash because the Didact knows we're inside. I don't know why he didn't just throw up a shield right in front of the ship and blow us up, but again, drama, whatever. Again, I'm willing to forgive some of the cheesy shit in this game. It's such a bad game that it's yeah. But I digress. We blast the hole, we go through. The next few sections are extremely boring because we just wander around these same looking hallways blasting the Prometheans over and over and over. And then we teleport and go on more platforms and fight more Prometheans. And then teleport and go on more platforms and then fight more Prometheans. Then we go to this giant center core with this vortex on the bottom that has these cool platforms, and whoa, we have this massive giant portal down there. This is actually kind of looking cool here. And then we get to fight, you guessed it, more fucking Prometheans. Yeah, so the entire gameplay loop of this is just fighting Prometheans over and over until we eventually get to fight the Didact. Wow. This is the mission they choose to end off with? One of the most cookie cutter ever missions is what they chose to end off with. Holy fuck, dude. Alright. So long story short, we went through boring fights with boring QuickTime events to go fight the Didact. And I want to quickly say that Bungie games had boss fights in them. Right? So the boss fights weren't very good. I'll be honest, they weren't very good. I thought 343 was fine, but whatever. You know, at least they tried. At least they tried to do something new, right? Guess why we killed the Didact? So the Didact comes in. He pushes us. He uses his force powers, by the way. He just has force powers. It never explains what he's actually doing. I assume he's manipulating gravity because of these little squiggles, but they never explain it because he can just have the force because that makes sense in Halo, right? He uses the force to just instantly murk us because that's fair and that's, you know, how Halo works. And Chief manages to luckily climb onto the light bridge, and Cortana did this weird, like, splitty thing and distracts the Didact, and, like, you know, I don't care about this Cortana stuff. I don't think this is offensive. You know, this seems about right. So Cortana's distracting them, and then we quickly do some quick time actions, and finally get the opportunity to press RT to fire machine gun. What? Wait. Machine gun? Yeah, so they were lazy enough, they put RT to fire a machine gun instead of the grenade. It did get fixed in MCC, but you can still see this in the original release, which is ridiculous that this got into the final release, but I digress. And then we blast him off, and yes, we killed the... Wait, what do you mean we didn't kill him? He's still alive? What a joke of a game. Not only did we not kill the big baddie in the game, but we got dumbass melodrama to finish off. And I wouldn't hate Cortana's death as much if they actually did something good with it, but instead they made her evil. Which, by the way, I want to bring up again. The director of this game, what? Frank O'Connor? Forgive me if it's not Frank O'Connor. I don't remember why I didn't write it down. But forgive me if it's not Frank O'Connor. But I'm pretty sure it is. Said that Cortana is just doing something we disagree with, like Russia after invading Crimea and Ukraine. You cannot make this shit up. This shit is like that of like Mad Maggot. Not even Mad. What the fuck? This is like some South Park shit, right? So. Back to Cortana, though. If they actually did something with her instead of make her evil, I think this game would have fared way better. But overall, this game is a joke. 343 deserved a shutdown from the start. This is a horrible first entry. And I hope Halo comes back better. And we haven't even talked about the multiplayer of this game, which is just so bland and uninteresting. And I genuinely cannot find a reason why you ever want to actively play it. In fact, I've never actually ever sat down and thought, man, I want to play Halo 4 until this video idea came to my mind. This game is terrible. It deserves to die, and I hope it... I've just said Bungie never got to do it, because Bungie would have done a way better job even if they wiped their ass and threw it on the disc. But, unfortunately, I am open to opinions. So, this week, I don't know if there's enough demand, I'll hold a little Q&A where we can politely debate our opinions together. Say something in the comments, and I'll try and make it happen. But I might have another part 2 for this. I don't know yet. But without further ado, love ya.